I'm 42. Married for almost 14 years. 2 kids. Suburban house, decent job, weekend barbecues, the whole boring, comfortable setup. I used to think that meant we were safe. That nothing truly bad could happen to us because we were too ordinary for drama. My wife, Anna, and I met in our 20s. We grew up together in a way: careers, kids, grief, routines. Life felt predictable, even when it was hard. I trusted her without thinking about it. Not the fragile kind of trust you check and double check, but the lazy kind where you assume loyalty the same way you assume gravity exists. A year ago, things felt off, but not alarming. She said she was struggling emotionally. Anxiety. Old trauma resurfacing. I believed her. I encouraged her to get help. I was proud of her for doing the work. She told me she had reconnected with an old teacher from her teenage years. Someone who had always understood her. He was offering informal counseling. No charge. Just conversations. Guidance. I remember feeling a flicker of discomfort, like when you hear a noise at night and tell yourself it's just the house settling. I ignored it. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. I wanted to be supportive. Back then, I still thought honesty was the default. I didn't know my life was already splitting into a before and an after. At first, the counseling sounded harmless. She framed it as emotional support from someone who knew her past. She said traditional therapy made her uncomfortable. This was easier. More personal. That word should have stopped me cold. She started taking long walks to talk to him on the phone. She'd sit in the car after errands, engine off, staring at nothing. When I asked, she'd say, "We were in the middle of something important." Her tone implied I wouldn't understand. I noticed small changes. She dressed differently on days she planned to see him. Not sexy, exactly, just more effort. Makeup she hadn't worn in years. Perfume I bought her but hadn't smelled in a long time. I told myself I was projecting. That I was insecure because I couldn't fix what she was feeling. I swallowed my questions and praised her for prioritizing her mental health. Red flags don't arrive as sirens. They arrive as reasonable explanations. I mistook my discomfort for a personal flaw instead of information. Sometimes she'd mention him casually. His wisdom. His patience. How he really listens. Each compliment landed like a tiny insult, though I couldn't articulate why. I remember one night lying next to her while she slept, staring at the ceiling, feeling strangely lonely with my own wife inches away. I didn't know it then, but I was already being replaced emotionally. And emotional affairs don't announce themselves. They slip in quietly, wearing the disguise of healing. The first real crack came with her phone. She had always been careless with it, left it charging on the counter, screen lighting up with notifications. Then suddenly it was always face down. Always locked. Always with her. One night she went to shower and left it on the bed. It buzzed. Just once. I didn't touch it. I stared at it like it might explode. After that, I started noticing patterns. Late night sessions. Texts that made her smile at odd moments. A distance between us that felt rehearsed. I asked her directly if something was going on. She looked wounded. Hurt that I'd even ask. She told me I was making her healing about my insecurity. I apologized. That apology still haunts me. I started doubting my own instincts. I'd think, "This feels wrong," and immediately counter it with, "You're being controlling." Gaslighting doesn't always come from the other person. Sometimes you do it to yourself. The irony is, I trusted her so much that I handed her every opportunity to lie convincingly. No monitoring. No checking. Just blind faith. I remember telling a friend, half joking, if she ever cheated, I'd never see it coming. I thought that meant we were solid. What it really meant was I was defenseless. The turning point wasn't dramatic. No lipstick on collars. No hotel receipts. It was an email. She asked me to check something on the shared computer while she was out. Her email was open. A message preview popped up from a name I recognized instantly, her old teacher. The subject line wasn't explicit. Just, thinking about yesterday. I clicked. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had. The message talked about how connected they felt. How their conversations crossed lines, but felt inevitable. How he missed her already. My hands shook. I felt cold, like my body was shutting down systems to survive. I scrolled. There were more. Weeks worth. Confessions. Longing. Emotional intimacy that should have belonged to our marriage. There it was in plain text. I know this is more than counseling. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat there, numb, rereading sentences that rewrote my entire reality. When she came home, I was still at the computer. I asked her to sit. My voice sounded calm, which scared me. Tell me what's going on with him, I said. She knew. The moment stretched. Then she whispered, "It just happened." That sentence detonated my life. Her confession came in fragments. She said it started emotionally. That she felt understood in ways she hadn't in years. That he made her feel seen. Then she admitted it became physical. I remember the room spinning, like I was drunk without the numbness. I asked how long. She said, "A few months." Then corrected herself. Longer. She kept saying she didn't mean for it to happen. That it wasn't planned. That it was complicated. I kept hearing excuses dressed up as explanations. I asked why him? Why my old teacher, someone from our town, someone who knew me too? She cried. Said he felt safe. Familiar. That he guided her. That word made me sick. I asked if she loved him. She hesitated. That pause did more damage than any admission could have. I felt humiliated. Betrayed. Small. Like everyone else had been in on a joke about my marriage except me. Part of me wanted to rage. Another part wanted to disappear. I sat there, nodding, absorbing blows like it was my job. She kept reaching for me. I pulled away. I slept on the couch that night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every ignored instinct, every moment I trusted when I shouldn't have. By morning, nothing felt real anymore, not my house, not my life, not myself. Anger arrived late. At first, it was shock. Then grief. Then rage so intense it scared me. I confronted her again, this time less calm. I asked questions I didn't want answers to. Where? How? How often? She answered through tears, begging me to understand. Understand what? That she chose him over me, again and again? She tried to frame it as mutual vulnerability. As two wounded people finding comfort. I saw manipulation in every sentence. I contacted him. Or tried to. He didn't respond. That silence felt like another betrayal layered on top of the first. When he finally replied, it was clinical. Apologetic but detached. He said lines were crossed. That he regretted it. That he was stepping back. For everyone's well-being. I wanted to destroy him. Instead, I felt ridiculous for expecting decency from someone who slept with a married woman he once taught. Anna begged me not to tell anyone. She said it would ruin her. Him. Our kids. I realized then that I was being asked to carry the shame for something I didn't do. Every mirror felt accusatory. Like it was asking what I lacked that pushed her into his arms. I started questioning my worth. My masculinity. My entire identity as a husband. Infidelity doesn't just break trust. It breaks your sense of self. The kids noticed before we told them anything. Tension has a smell. It leaks into rooms. We tried to act normal. Family dinners. Homework help. Bedtime stories. All of it felt staged, like we were actors who forgot why we took the roles. At night, I lay awake replaying messages in my head. Wondering if I'd ever stop seeing them. Anna wanted to fix things immediately. Therapy. Transparency. Promises. She gave me passwords. Deleted his contact. It felt too late. Like locking the door after the house burned down. I oscillated between wanting to save the marriage and wanting to burn every bridge. Some mornings I missed her desperately. Other days I couldn't stand to be in the same room. The worst part was the self-doubt. Was I overreacting? Was I supposed to forgive? Was holding on to anger a failure? People talk about betrayal like it's a single event. It's not. It's a daily experience. 1,000 tiny reminders that trust is gone. I started isolating. I didn't tell friends. I didn't tell family. I carried it alone, afraid that speaking it out loud would make it permanent. But silence has weight. And it was crushing me. We started couples counseling with a stranger this time. A real therapist. Neutral ground. In sessions, Anna took responsibility, mostly. She said all the right things. That it was her choice. That it wasn't my fault. I wanted to believe her. Sometimes I did. But then she'd slip. Say she felt neglected. Unseen. Lonely. Each word felt like a quiet accusation. I realized reconciliation required me to accept a version of events where we both shared blame. I wasn't ready for that. I needed space. She panicked. Asked if I was leaving. I said I didn't know. That uncertainty hurt her. But certainty would have been a lie. I moved into the guest room. Physical distance felt like survival. Some nights I cried quietly so the kids wouldn't hear. Other nights I felt nothing at all, which scared me more. I started imagining a future without her. It felt both terrifying and relieving. Love doesn't vanish instantly. It erodes. Grain by grain, word eventually got out. It always does. Someone saw them together months earlier. Someone else connected dots. Rumors reached family. The humiliation returned, louder this time. Public. Her parents were devastated. Mine were furious, at her, and awkwardly sympathetic toward me. Friends picked sides without asking what I needed. I hated being the betrayed husband. I hated the looks. The pity. Anna blamed the teacher more openly now. Called him manipulative. Predatory. Maybe he was. But she still chose to cross the line. I stopped defending her. That was a shift. I focused on the kids. On stability. On pretending I wasn't unraveling inside. Sleep became erratic. My appetite vanished. I lost weight. People commented. I nodded. Betrayal doesn't just live in your head. It lives in your body. I met with a lawyer. Just to understand my options. That sentence felt like a betrayal of its own. But knowledge brought a strange calm. Like at least one part of my life had rules. Anna saw the paperwork and broke down. She asked if there was still hope. I didn't answer. Hope felt like pressure. Like something I was expected to provide. I needed time. She wanted reassurance. We were grieving the same marriage from opposite sides. Some nights we talked honestly. About regrets. About fear. About the version of ourselves we lost. Other nights we argued until our voices cracked. Love doesn't protect you from hurting each other. Sometimes it sharpens the knives. Months passed, not in a clean line but in loops. Good weeks followed by sudden crashes. I learned how to function with a constant ache humming under everything I did. I could make breakfast, drive the kids to school, sit in meetings, laugh at the right moments, while feeling like I was watching my own life from behind glass. Anna kept trying. I'll give her that. She read books about infidelity recovery. She listened to podcasts. She checked in constantly, sometimes too much. How are you feeling right now? Became a question that made me want to scream, because most of the time I didn't know how to answer it myself. Some days I missed her desperately. I'd see flashes of the woman I married, her humor, her warmth, the way she knew exactly how I took my coffee. Other days, I looked at her and felt nothing but distance. Not hatred. Just a hollow neutrality that scared me more than anger ever did. Trust didn't come back in a dramatic way. There was no moment where I thought, okay, I believe you again. Instead, there were moments where I stopped checking her phone habits in my head. Then moments where I started again. Healing, apparently, isn't linear. It's messy and frustrating and unfair. What surprised me most was how much the betrayal changed me. I became quieter. More guarded. I stopped sharing half-formed thoughts, the way I used to. Vulnerability felt reckless now, like leaving a door unlocked in a bad neighborhood. People talk about staying after infidelity as strength. Others call it weakness. From the inside, it feels like neither. It feels like standing in the ruins of something you loved, trying to decide whether you're rebuilding a home or just learning how to live with rubble. We're still married. We still sleep under the same roof. But the marriage that existed before is gone. This one is something else, more cautious, more fragile, held together by effort instead of instinct. I don't know yet whether that's enough. People ask, sometimes gently, sometimes bluntly, if I've forgiven her. Friends. Therapists. Even Anna, on her worst days. I never know how to answer because forgiveness isn't a switch. It's not a checkbox you tick once enough time has passed. It's closer to a long, uneven negotiation with yourself. I've let go of the constant rage. That took months. I don't replay the emails every day anymore. I don't feel that sharp, immediate nausea when I think about what she did. But forgiveness, in the deeper sense? The kind that restores trust and innocence? I don't think I'm there. I'm not sure I ever will be. What people don't understand is that infidelity doesn't just break trust in your partner, it breaks trust in your own judgment. I was so sure of her. So sure of us. Realizing how wrong I was made me question every instinct I had. If I miss that, what else am I blind to? Sometimes I wonder if staying is courage or fear. Courage, because rebuilding requires facing pain every single day. Fear, because leaving would mean detonating what's left of our shared life and starting over at an age where, starting over, feels exhausting. I imagine alternate timelines. One where I left immediately, scorched earth, clean break. Another where this never happened at all. Both feel unreal now. This is the timeline I'm stuck in, the one where every choice feels compromised. Anna has apologized more times than I can count. Sometimes her apologies feel sincere and grounding. Other times they feel like reminders of what we lost. She wants reassurance that we'll be okay. I can't give her that without lying. What I've learned is that forgiveness isn't owed. It isn't something the injured party is morally obligated to grant to make everyone comfortable again. It's personal. Slow. Optional. If forgiveness comes for me, it'll come quietly. And if it doesn't, that doesn't make me cruel. It makes me honest. I still think about him more than I want to admit. Not in the way I imagined I would. I don't fantasize about confronting him or ruining his life. That phase passed quickly, burned up by exhaustion. Now it's something colder. A kind of stunned disbelief that someone could step into my marriage so easily and then step back out like it was nothing. I think about the power imbalance. The history. The authority he once had over her. How that dynamic blurred into intimacy. I wonder how much of what she felt was genuine connection and how much was conditioning she didn't even recognize. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if he ever thinks about the damage. About my kids. About the nights I couldn't sleep. Or if we're just an unfortunate mistake in his personal narrative, something he's neatly compartmentalized. I'll never know. And I've realized that not knowing is part of the punishment, for me. I don't look him up anymore. Early on I did. Social media. Professional profiles. I wanted to see his face, to confirm he was real. Eventually, that only made things worse. Comparison is a special kind of torture. Now he exists as a ghost in our relationship. We don't say his name. We don't need to. He's present in the pauses, in the moments when Anna hesitates before telling me where she's been, even when she's done nothing wrong. That's the part people don't talk about. Even when the affair is over, it doesn't leave. It embeds itself into the architecture of your relationship. I hate that he's part of our story now. I hate that a stranger has permanent residency in my marriage. And I hate that there's nothing I can do about it except keep living. If there's one lesson I've learned the hard way, it's that boundaries matter long before you think you need them. Especially emotional ones. People imagine affairs starting with lust, with attraction, with obvious intent. Ours didn't. It started with listening, with empathy, with someone saying, "I understand you," at the exact moment my wife felt unseen. That doesn't excuse it. Not even close. But it explains how easily the slope gets slippery when you convince yourself it's harmless. I used to think I was enlightened, secure, not the jealous type. I thought that made me a better partner. Now I understand that ignoring your discomfort isn't maturity, it's self-betrayal. There were moments I felt uneasy and talked myself out of it. Moments I chose to be supportive instead of curious. I don't blame myself for her choices, but I do regret abandoning my own intuition. Our future is still unresolved. Some days I can imagine growing old together, this chapter fading into something we survived. Other days, I picture a quiet separation years from now, when the kids are grown and we finally admit that staying was easier than healing. I live with ambiguity now. It's uncomfortable, but it's honest. There's no neat moral to this story. No inspirational ending. Just two flawed people trying to coexist after something irreparable happened. Maybe that's what adulthood really is. Learning how to live with fractures instead of pretending everything is whole. I'm writing this now because I never truly processed it while it was happening. I was too busy surviving. Too busy being functional. Too busy protecting my kids from a truth they weren't ready to carry. I kept it contained, convinced that if I didn't talk about it, it wouldn't define me. But silence has a way of turning into pressure. And pressure eventually finds a crack. If you're reading this and there's a small voice inside you saying something isn't right, listen to it. Don't shame yourself out of awareness. Discomfort isn't weakness. It's information. I don't hate my wife. That surprises people. Hatred would be simpler. Cleaner. I also don't love her the way I once did. That kind of love required a level of safety that no longer exists. Both truths live side by side now. Life didn't end after her affair. But it fundamentally changed. Like dropping a glass bowl and carefully gluing it back together. It still holds things. It still looks mostly intact. But you always know where the cracks are. Some nights I lie awake wondering who I'd be if this never happened. Lighter, probably. More trusting. Less guarded. That version of me is gone. This version is quieter. More careful. Less certain, but maybe more real. I don't know how this story ends. I just know this is where I am right now. And saying it out loud, even anonymously, feels like finally setting something heavy down.